The whispers are getting louder, the smiles are getting wider, and according to some of the most connected voices around the royal world, what looks like a family reunion may actually be the biggest royal deception of the year. Because just when rumors started spreading that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were quietly plotting a return to royal life, a shocking counter-narrative exploded into public view. And at the center of it all sits Queen Camilla, watching, listening, and allegedly making sure certain palace doors never swing open again. The controversy erupted after respected royal biographer Angela Levin delivered one of the harshest assessments yet of the Sussex situation. This was not coming from a random commentator. This was someone who spent significant time with Harry during his working royal years and later became one of the most knowledgeable writers on Camilla's journey into the royal establishment. That is exactly why her words sent shockwaves through royal watchers. Instead of embracing the growing rumors of reconciliation, she painted a picture that looked completely different behind palace walls. According to this reading, the recent softer image surrounding Harry and Meghan is not evidence of healing. It is evidence of strategy. Every carefully crafted appearance, every family-centered message, every hint that bridges are being rebuilt. Suddenly, critics began asking the same uncomfortable question. Is this genuine reconciliation? Or is it a calculated campaign designed to reopen doors that have remained firmly shut for 6 years? The timing is what makes everything feel suspicious. Just as stories began circulating about possible palace communication channels reopening, senior royal insiders appeared to be sending entirely different signals. While King Charles has always been viewed as someone who values family unity, there are growing suggestions that the institution itself may have moved beyond the point of emotional reconciliation. And if that is true, then Harry's path back becomes far more complicated than a simple father-son conversation. Then comes Queen Camilla. For years, critics tried to portray her as the mastermind pulling strings behind the scenes, but those closest to the royal structure describe something very different. They describe a woman who rarely issues demands but exerts influence through quiet conversations, long discussions, patient observations, careful guidance, the kind of influence that never appears in headlines but often shapes the final outcome. And according to this interpretation, Camilla does not need to openly block anything. She simply needs to help King Charles see what she believes is already obvious. That belief appears brutally simple. Trust has been shattered, not bruised, not damaged. Shattered. The palace has spent years watching interviews, documentaries, memoirs, public statements, and media appearances. Every revelation became another entry in a growing file of grievances. Every accusation deepened existing wounds. Every private conversation that somehow became public created fresh concerns. From the palace perspective, some observers argue that the issue is no longer forgiveness. It is predictability. Can future conversations remain private? Can future disagreements stay behind closed doors? Can trust ever truly be rebuilt? And while those questions remain unanswered, another major obstacle looms inside Kensington Palace: Prince William. Because according to many royal commentators, the future king may be the strongest barrier standing between Harry and any meaningful return. Sources and commentators repeatedly point toward one issue above all others: Catherine, Princess of Wales. William has spent years watching criticism directed toward the woman who will one day stand beside him as queen. The public may move on from headlines. Institutions may move on from controversies. Families may attempt reconciliation, but some wounds leave permanent scars. That is why insiders increasingly believe the Sussex question is no longer simply about King Charles. It is about the future monarchy itself. And if William remains unconvinced, then any short-term reconciliation could face enormous long-term resistance. The most fascinating part is that none of this is happening publicly. No dramatic announcements, no official declarations, no palace press conference declaring war, just silence. And in royal circles, silence is often where the biggest stories hide. Because while the public sees smiles, carefully chosen photographs, and carefully managed appearances, others claim a very different battle is unfolding behind palace gates. A battle over trust, a battle over loyalty, a battle over whether some royal exits can ever truly be reversed. And if the growing speculation is correct, the answer may already have been decided long before the public even realized the question was being asked. But if the palace drama stopped with Harry, Meghan, William, and Camilla, this story would already be explosive enough. Instead, new developments across the wider royal family are creating an even bigger picture one that suggests the royal institution may be quietly drawing its own lines in the sand while never publicly admitting it. Take the growing conversation surrounding Peter Philip's upcoming wedding. On the surface, it should be a joyful family event, a celebration, a gathering, another happy chapter for one of the most respected members of the extended royal family. Yet suddenly, Suddenly, attention shifted away from the wedding itself and toward who may or may not attend. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie reportedly found themselves facing a difficult reality. Their father's ongoing controversies threatened to dominate headlines once again. Instead of allowing the spotlight to fall on the bride and groom, the sisters reportedly chose caution, and that decision speaks volumes, because that is becoming the recurring pattern inside royal circles. Less noise, less confrontation, more strategic withdrawals, more careful positioning. The family appears increasingly focused on protecting the institution rather than feeding media storms. Every move feels calculated. Every appearance feels measured. Every absence tells its own story. The same pattern appears in discussions surrounding royal ascot. Traditionally one of the most glamorous gatherings on the royal calendar, the event now carries uncomfortable shadows due to ongoing public controversies connected to Prince Andrew. Suddenly, attendance decisions are no longer simple family choices. They become public relations calculations. They become institutional decisions. And that reveals something fascinating about the current royal era. The monarchy appears obsessed with controlling risk, which brings us back to Harry and Meghan. Because if family members are stepping aside to avoid distracting headlines, how likely is it that senior royals would welcome back the two people whose every appearance instantly dominates global news cycles? That question continues to hang over every reconciliation rumor. Meanwhile, another unexpected signal emerged from a completely different corner of the royal family. Mike Tindall publicly voiced support for William and Catherine, creating what many observers viewed as one of the clearest loyalty signals seen in years. Royal families rarely make such alignments obvious. Normally, support remains private, unspoken, understood rather than declared. Yet suddenly, the message appeared remarkably direct. And when you connect that moment to the growing closeness between William, Catherine, Zara Tindall, Peter Phillips, and Princess Anne, a larger pattern begins to emerge. The future-focused wing of the family appears increasingly united around stability, discipline, and institutional continuity. Not headlines, not personal branding, not public score settling. Stability. That is why some commentators believe the Sussex issue is no longer being evaluated as a family disagreement. It is being evaluated as a question of institutional survival. Every decision is measured against one standard. Does it strengthen the monarchy or weaken it? Then there is Lady Louise Windsor, quietly becoming one of the most intriguing figures of the next generation. While others attract headlines through controversy, she has built a reputation through patience, humility, and hard work. No dramatic interviews, no public feuds, no attention-seeking campaigns, just steady contributions and growing respect. And perhaps that is precisely why palace insiders continue paying attention to her. In a royal world increasingly shaped by media battles, she represents something rare calm. The contrast is impossible to ignore. On one side are figures constantly generating global headlines. On the other are figures quietly building trust behind the scenes. And the institution appears increasingly drawn toward the second model, which brings us back to the question that started everything. Will Harry and Meghan ever truly return? The answer depends on who you ask. Publicly, the door is never completely closed. Royal families rarely operate in absolutes, but privately, the obstacles appear larger than ever. Trust remains fractured. Old grievances remain unresolved. Powerful figures inside the institution appear unconvinced. And every passing month creates new complications instead of removing old ones. That is why the story feels far from finished. The next Sussex appearance will spark fresh speculation. The next palace event will trigger new rumors. The next family gathering will be dissected for hidden clues. Every smile will be analyzed. Every absence will be questioned. Every silence will become evidence for somebody's theory. And perhaps that is the biggest clue of all. Because when an institution refuses to speak openly, the mystery grows stronger, the speculation grows louder, and the truth becomes harder to see. One thing, however, appears increasingly clear. Behind the palace gates, decisions are being made. Alliances are forming. Positions are hardening. And while the public continues debating whether a royal reunion is coming, some observers believe the real decision may already have been made long ago. The only question now is when the rest of the world finally realizes it.